In 1982, Steven Spielberg took the world by storm yet again by releasing a film that would dethrone the original Star Wars as the highest grossing film of all time, but 20 years later has some nagging issues about the film they decided to go back and make some tweaks to with some controversial results. Let's delve into the special edition of E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. So the summer of 1982 may have been filled with everything from Rocky Balboa to Conan the Barbarian to one of the best Star Trek films ever made, to two science fiction bombs later become absolute utter classics of the genre. Nothing could compete on the level of Steven Spielberg's E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, which by the end of its initial theatrical run had garnered $619 million worldwide, and through numerous re-releases, would garner a box office total just shy of $800 million, and so being produced on a budget of $10.5 million became an insane return on investment for Universal Pictures, not even counting the merchandising, which absolutely blows it out of the water in that regard. But it's interesting they went to Universal because this originally started Columbia Pictures, where Spielberg was kind of developing this much darker, heavier, scarier sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And as he kind of was going through the entire thing, had like this fantastic work from Rick Baker, master makeup and everything like that, creating all these fantastic designs of these much scarier aliens involved in the entire film. Kind of started going through and honing in on the much brighter little glimmers in the entire story here, kind of accentuate those little things, things that harken back to his own childhood, the abandonment between his parents of their divorce, various other things that was going on in his own life at the point in time, decided to take those elements and develop in a different story altogether, which Columbia wasn't too crazy about, but as Spielberg went off to Sid Sheinberg over at MCA Universal, had them buy out the entire thing from Columbia Pictures and move it over here to create E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. History just said the rest of the entire thing of how audiences were just so beloved with this character of E.T. The story overall, which is so simple in a certain way of how it tells a story of loneliness and abandonment and broken elements of a family, but brought together through friendship and closeness and compassion, all these different things. Like, such a beautiful piece of art. Just like Spielberg had the magic here. And if you didn't already know it by then, you knew it absolutely at this point in time that going forward, this guy would be ever present in cinema, creating classic after classic, bringing so many interesting, wonderful things to the screen that people would just absolutely bring to their hearts so much. It's such a fantastic piece of work, what he did there. It's kind of interesting, the film took a bit longer to get to home video than some other films of the era. As it theatrically debuted in the summer of 1982, didn't get on home video until 1988, 6 years. That wasn't quite as quick of a turnaround in the early 80s to home video because it was just developing at that point in time, but for kind of context, Return of the Jedi, released theatrically in 1983, would debut on home media in 1986. So quicker turnaround there. But as they were doing theatrical re-releases, and apparently some rumors that Spielberg was afraid of pirated copies and stuff like that, as the original VHS, which I still have, was designed in a way with all the little kind of green trim on the entire thing and the holographic marking on the entire tape. They kind of pick out, if it was a bootleg, it would be very obvious in that regard. So kind of nice little thing, and it would go along very nicely on home video in terms of VHS and Laserdisc releases, getting a signature collection, one in the mid-90s with bunch of behind-the-scenes material and deleted scenes and outtakes and various other things. Really good type of thing. Like, Universal knew what they had. They knew once it hit home video, they would definitely make sure this was a mainstay on every format that was coming along. It did very, very well. But as the thing came up to DVD throughout the late 90s into the early 2000s, something like Jaws and Close Encounters kind of debuted ahead of this thing in 2000, 2002, stuff like that. It came out to 2002. You're at the 20th anniversary. Prime point in time to release this on the new digital home video format. And so it's an interesting thing how they went about to kind of approaching this. Like, as I said in the intro, Spielberg had a feeling about the entire film. Like, wonderful film, absolutely beautiful type of thing, but as an artist, you kind of look back at yourself like, oh, there's some things I really wanted to do we couldn't quite do it. Maybe the technology wasn't quite as flexible at the time or dynamic at the time to really kind of do every little thing I wanted to. Maybe there's a shot here or there that kind of that could have been better here or there. Maybe I could have done something a little more flourish or something else like that. Maybe realize the full vision just a little bit further along here. And those things kind of nagged at them here and there. Kind of here in that regard. And as I've already covered the numerous versions of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, certainly a film he went back to kind of thinking and rethinking his ideas about how to do things, what to include, what not to include, and stuff like that. A little more of a process on the entire film there, but you have the E.T., one of his most lauded films in that regard. If you wanted to go off and kind of approach it with a kind of a George Lucas mentality. His good friend, longtime friend George Lucas, as he had done the Star Wars special editions in '97, did a lot of digital alterations of the film, maybe add in some other scenes, some other things here or there to kind of realize a vision he felt like was a little more constricted by the technology and resources he had at the time those were made. Kind of realized things a little bit more further along the way there, so maybe you see him got a little bit of the George Lucas in him to kind of like, okay, maybe I'll follow along my friends kind of thing and kind of make some things and feel like there's a freedom to do that. But at least on this occasion, on this 20th anniversary for the 2002 DVD release, Spielberg would release both versions simultaneously. You'd have the theatrical version on one disc and the special edition on a separate disc, so kind of keeps an equal parity there. You can have both versions, watch either one you want, but here's both of them to have and enjoy and choose whichever one you prefer. And that's something I certainly champion here on the Retro Video Series, always kind of giving you an option. We have these various different versions of a single film. Try to give people an option. Keep all the options available on every format that you go forward on, which is a particular thing to highlight here in regards to this special edition of E.T. But it's an interesting thing, before I get into the changes, because a lot of things to talk about in that regard, it's particular weirdness with like the packaging and various other things I encountered with this version, because if you look on the back of the entire thing where you have all the tech specs for all the audio formats and stuff like that, they're all out of whack. Because when you actually put the discs in, both versions of the film have the equal audio tracks. They have a Dolby 2.0 surround track, you've got a 5.1 EX Dolby Digital track, and a 5.1 DTS ES track. Both of them have the same specs, but on the packaging, they're all screwed up, saying like the theatrical cut only has the original Dolby surround audio and the special edition gets all the special remixes and everything. It's not the case. Apparently, like even on the Ultimate Gift Set version, which has 3 discs instead of the 2 here, they took like some of the special features off the theatrical cut disc and put them on the 3rd disc with some additional stuff, but apparently stripped some of the audio stuff out of that one. I don't know. It seemed like Universal's home entertainment department was doing some wacky lack of quality control of the design specs of the entire packaging here, but regardless, what matters is what's on the disc, and that's what we're here to talk about. And certainly the 1982 theatrical version is fully preserved here, with different audio tracks to experience it any way you want, but it's a special edition where you have the entire thing of Spielberg, like I said, some things were kind of nagging at him over the years about some things that he want to futz around with and deal with some things, kind of clear up some issues he thought the film had from his own perspective and add in some additional scenes that were cut from the previous version of the film. Some things were because of technical issues, some other things were just maybe choices he made for runtime or where the heck it was at the time. So interesting to delve into the special edition here, which runs a little bit longer than the theatrical cut, and so delving the whole thing. Changes start out right away. Like the first thing that changes is the first shot of the whole thing is the fact is there's now a brand new Universal 20th anniversary ident for E.T. special for this release. But after we get through the opening credits, which remain completely unchanged, a lot of changes in the first scene of the film. Like the very first shot where you have the stars, you're kind of coming down to the earth and you're seeing the spaceship, all that type of stuff. Lots of changes. Like that first shot is completely changed. Then the spaceship has changed a lot. There's a lot of extra accoutrements, a lot more lights, thruster effects and stuff like that. Even when you get up to like the first reveal, the entire looking over the cliff and everything towards the entire town and everything down below, different shot. Like it's framed differently. The foreground elements are different. The kind of brighter town below with the lights and everything is just way, way different. And when E.T. eventually is getting the entire thing of his chest starts lighting up and he realizes the ship is leaving and he starts running along. In the original version, it's just him kind of running and scurrying through the entire brush and everything like that. Here, it's just kind of hopping along like it's a rabbit or something like that. Likely because on the original production, the effect was kind of done very rudimentary as a light just running along on a dolly track. And of course, as after the fact is, when the entire ship does start taking off, we got a lot of new different shots here. Some things showing E.T. moving along, looking up towards the entire ship and everything as it flies off the stars. A lot of different things, like when he's walking down the slope there, just see more movement from the character. All these little things, and certainly when all the men who discover later on, the much more government officials are searching through the brush and everything like that. All different elements of the entire thing. Like the background's completely different. There's a lot more of a out of focus element with the whole thing, and there's a lot of like kind of mist and fog, whatnot, kind of layered in there, whatnot. There's a lot more layers, and the brightness is a little bit different here or there. So it's an interesting change that seems more just kind of a nitpicky type of thing than anything that really kind of affects the kind of story flow or the context or anything like that, or how everything is really presented in a certain way. So we get the entire thing of Elliot's backyard as he goes out and stuff like that, and you start seeing a lot of sky changes. Like they kind of replace the entire sky here. Some points where there's a lot more clouds, the moon changes position. Even a later shot, the moon's completely removed. Like the next night when he goes back out there, there's not even a moon out there whatsoever. And the sky has also been changed with clouds and stuff like that here and there. So a little bit of change that don't seem like, again, I don't really understand what the motivation was for these changes. He decided to just change these things for certain things. So whatever the case is, he decided to change it, he decided to change it. That's the case in that regard. Moving on beyond that, it's the big thing of this whole thing. Like, you could do a little kind of like, little tweaks here and there, stuff like this here and there, a little extra stuff on the spaceship here and there. But the main thing that gets really tweaked around the whole thing, that's the main crux of the entire idea here, is they replace the actual puppet. In a lot of different cases, with much more of a animated digital version of E.T., I'm going to say it right now. The puppet they did, Carlo Ramboldi, his work on the entire thing, and all the puppeteers, everything, the performers inside the suit, is one of the most magnificent things I've ever seen. Like, oh my goodness, the design of the thing, the operation of it, just like you feel like it's a full-blown character. Like, oh, this is movie magic right here. It makes you believe so much in every little quality, the soul of this character, with every little technological and artistic element they put into it. Like, it's absolutely brilliant. And to tweak around with that just feels a little, that can just spark right into the heart of the debate about this entire version, about how much you like it. Don't quite like it. I can understand it entirely. I'm not going to advocate for it, because the thing I came along watching this version, because a little bit of thing for me, before I decided to do the entire video, I haven't watched the film in over a decade. It's one of those things that kind of fell off for me from childhood into adulthood and stuff like that. I really didn't revisit the film much. And I decided to watch it again back in like 2015 or so. And whatever the heck was going on with my head at the time watching this thing, I did not have any kind of a positive reaction. Like I felt ambivalent towards it, and I don't know what the hell I was on at the time. Because watching it now, I think the film's absolutely just gorgeously brilliant. Beautiful film. But the fact is, I rewatched this film for the first time in over a decade. And then I watched the special edition less than a week later. So it's not like I know the film shot for shot, beat for beat, image for image, every little thing, every little detail of the thing. I don't have the thing memorized, but I just watched the film again recently. Then watched this version. Like, every time the CGI version of E.T. shows up, I picked up on it. Might take a second or two, like, is that the digital version? Oh, yeah, it's the digital version. They changed that. This shot's been changed. That thing's been changed. They replaced it here and there. It just kept drawing attention to itself. Every single time. It's not terrible effects. It's not terrible. I've seen way worse, especially from this era. But the fact is, he decides to do this to kind of make more expressiveness for the character. Various other things, he felt like the technology at the time was maybe a little too limited to do as much as he wants to with it. But it's just the fact that, yeah, it's just like trying to integrate early 2000s digital effects with a film from the 1980s or even earlier just doesn't always quite mesh that well. It takes a very skilled hand with probably a little bit more advanced technology they had back in 2002 to really make that kind of a seamless piece of movie magic. But now getting into the entire thing. The first time we encounter the CGI ET is when Elliot first encounters him out in the cornfield with a flashlight, and digital effects just makes him more animated and more expressive overall. But moving forward is the fact that after this, like it's a little bit of a ways before you see the digital thing again, after Elliot and ET have started bonding and stuff like that, and Elliot kind of fakes having a fever that morning to kind of going to school so he can kind of stay with ET and stuff like that to kind of acclimate him into the world and everything like that. Entire thing where they added a new scene here, where Elliot and ET are in the bathroom, doing all different types of things where I can kind of feel it from like, oh, maybe you had this big vision of the entire scene. It's like it was too technically complicated to really kind of achieve at the time. We couldn't quite get everything right in certain ways. We had to cut it for the film. Really feeling like I really want to kind of realize this finally in the entire thing. But the thing is, the scene really doesn't add anything to the proceedings of the movie. It doesn't add anything to the story. It doesn't add anything to the characters, really. Anything you get from the scene is easily gotten from every other scene you have between these two characters throughout the entire course of the film. The bonding of these characters, the beloved nature you build with their journeys, their stories, their bond in the entire film is completely serviced by everything that was in the original theatrical cut. This is just there as a little extra candy on top of everything to kind of experience it, but it's really not necessary for everything in the film to kind of link up and interconnect and move the story forward. So, decent scene, it just doesn't really do anything for the story overall. But following that, when Gertie first encounters E.T. and she starts screaming and then he freaks out, another digital replacement of the character there, and when you have Gertie kind of commenting about E.T.'s feet, his feet have also been digitally altered. That's interesting there. And later on, we have E.T. raiding the fridge, and when she gets drunk and everything, a lot of digital replacements of the character there that you kind of see when he's being a lot more animated to a certain degree, a lot more movement. You start seeing a little bit more of the kind of rubbery digital quality of the entire thing, which the problem is, like, if you have him moving too much in a certain way that doesn't match what the puppet was doing, again, it draws attention to itself. And then when you get the entire thing of him kind of watching the cartoon and have the big expressions on his face, another digital replacement. Also, a little later on, when E.T.'s playing with the little balls of clay and kind of levitates them to show where he comes from as clay planets, actually been replaced entirely. There's new digital effects there. And when Gertie dresses him up in the entire garish garb and everything, and then leading up to the E.T. phone home thing, a lot of digital replacement in the entire sequence there, where his expressions and his movements are all changed up for digital versions to, again, make him more flexible on screen in a certain way is the best way I can kind of express in that regard. But after this, there's a little type of thing where they go up to the Halloween night thing. Another thing that we got to talk about here, the fact that this is 2002, about a year after 9/11, all that type of stuff, and the entire thing of Dee Wallace's mother character of Mary, kind of commenting on Michael's outfit saying, oh, you're not going out there dressed as a terrorist. They changed it to hippie.
And that is final. You are not going as a terrorist.
But all the guys are.
No, I mean it. You are not going as a hippie.
All the guys are.
No.
Now this kind of brings up certain numbers of things about what Spielberg kind of felt about some of these changes that we'll get into much further along the way, but certain things he kind of regrets and kind of sees things in a different light looking back on it now, which explains a lot of things about the availability of this version of the film as we get to that point in time. But beyond that, we get the entire thing of, as we're on the Halloween night and they kind of do the entire kind of cloak and dagger thing to get E.T. out of the house, they can go off with the communication device into the woods and stuff like that. When E.T. and Elliot kind of go off on that first flight, a lot of the shots are completely changed, like his flight path is all changed in certain places. When they go over the moon, they actually added the entire fluttering cape to Elliot to actually kind of key art the entire thing, and the Emblem Entertainment logo that Spielberg would have for the rest of his career. Interesting little things. You can't keep changing little things here and there that seem like they don't really need changing. Like maybe the thing with the moon, I understand that one, but changing all the like flight paths and everything like that just seems arbitrary. Doesn't seem like there was anything wrong with those shots. Never were. Just said to change them. But as you cut back to Dee Wallace, kind of sitting there at the house, kind of wondering where our kids are because they didn't come back by nighttime and everything like that. And then cut back to the forest. It's a brand new shot of the forest. Why? Again, I don't know. But then there's another set of digital replacements for E.T. in the sequence of Elliot and E.T. sitting there in the forest waiting for the communication device to kind of stir up something, some sort of result that they can react to in a certain way. Another ad scene here with Dee Wallace as the mother kind of going out into the night on Halloween, kind of looking for kids, coming across Michael and Gertie on the side of the road, and Gertie saying like, oh no, Elliot didn't go off in the woods and stuff like that, kind of writing him out to a certain degree, but it's an okay addition, nothing that's detrimental to the story, nothing that adds too much to it overall. Maybe it's just a little bit of a connective tissue. Spielberg felt like, yeah, I can throw this back in here just a little bit, entire thing to kind of bridge a little bit of a gap in the story in a certain way, as she does go out and the government guys go in and search the house and stuff like that. Kind of just fills in the gap of where she went, grab the kids, come back home, stuff like that. So I can see the reason for maybe putting it back in the entire film in that regard. But beyond this, not a lot of stuff until much closer to the end of the film. Like a lot of the stuff going on with the entire thing of them finding E.T. in the woods where he's dying, and the entire thing where the government guys come in and they quarantine the house and all the medical stuff's going on, and all that huge emotional drama that probably just ripping the hearts of the audience in 1982. Like, oh my God, they're probably just bawling their eyes out in the theater. Oh my God. But as it goes along, and as the communication finally brings E.T.'s people back, he's resuscitated, and all the type of stuff goes on, and the kids grab him and go off, and the bikes and everything like that. Came to another piece of objectionable quality here, because Spielberg wasn't a father yet when he made E.T. Wouldn't have his first kid until, I believe, 1985, and so, as even with Close Encounters, some things he felt about that film, in retrospect and years later, feels different about it being a family man later in his life, about certain things he did with Roy Neary in that film, how he kind of absconds from his family, kind of drives them away, and all the different things. Felt very differently about having guns being presented as a threat towards kids. Kind of understandable, but the changes he makes here, moving all the guns in these sequences with walkie-talkies, this was the major piece of contention. Like, it felt like absolute censorship and big controversial stuff stemming from the thing that really kind of stirred up a lot of discourse about the entire version of the film, and Spielberg being very heavily into revisionism on that regard. And so, the entire sequence where the government officials come along and they find the now empty van that the kids absconded with, and then later on, right before the second flight sequence, where they're kind of making this kind of blockade for the kids, all the guns, the rifles, the handguns, everything like that, completely replaced with walkie-talkies to make it less threatening overall. And plus, one shot, which is a close-up of a guy holding a rifle, has been edited out as well. So it was very contentious, very heavily on that type of thing. So that was the kind of the big focal point of this version that really stirred up a lot of people's ire in a certain way. A few additional things beyond this. Again, when they're flying, the shots are completely different. A lot of different added things, different flight paths through the entire forest and stuff like that. All very heavily altered in that regard. And of course, when you finally get into the forest and the spaceship comes down, again, more accoutrements to the spaceship. A lot more lights overall, more thruster effects, various other things like that. So there's that, and plus a few additional digital ETs. We have that final moments between Elliot and E.T. And there's one particular shot that was changed for continuity, because originally in 1982, between the shot and reverse shot of the two of them, when E.T.'s raising up his finger with the light at the end, when you cut from one shot to the next, it was a different hand. Now in this one, they shifted from the right hand to the left hand to match the reverse shot over the shoulder of Elliot. I'll sign off on that. That's a fine enough change. But also, in the reverse shot, his face has been digitally replaced, and in a subsequent shot, he's been completely replaced with a digital model. And beyond that, just some extra thruster effects and stuff like that on the spaceship as it takes off. And that's really all there is. That's all there is for this special edition. These digital alterations, a little bit of stuff that people call censorship, or at least revisionism in a certain way. And that was the thing that happened in 2002, and this thing did get re-released on DVD in 2005, I believe it was, as a single disc edition with only the 2002 version on it. But wasn't even a decade later, when Spielberg was kind of looking back and regretting this version, because he would have interviews saying, there'll be no more digital alterations to my films. I'm not going to go back and make revisions to anything else in that regard. I feel like things should be presented as they were. As things were of the time they were made, they should be preserved overall. Not have, he recommended other filmmakers not go back and make these types of alterations to your film, even though in 2002, he maintained the original theatrical version alongside this new edition. So you still had an option. He wasn't suppressing one version over another, so that's positive for him. But you could kind of say the inverse going forward on the entire thing, as he has this new mentality by 2011, and certainly has commented more and more frequently afterwards about not endorsing this version anymore. And so it doesn't carry over to future formats. It's not Blu-ray, it's not 4K, anything like that. It's not even like I don't even think even on digital, if you got like a digital copy, it's like even included as like a standard definition sort of bonus material or whatnot. It's just not there. If you do not have the DVD release from 2002 or 2005, you cannot watch this version. Not available anymore. And so it's just the whole thing, like even with the changes with the guns, he's also rescinded that. He felt like that was not the thing to do. He felt like things that, like I said, should exist in the time they're made and not be transformed to contemporary feelings and vibes and perspectives. Otherwise, you'd be constantly changing everything over and over again. You'd just be endlessly altering things to appease certain tastes and political and social opinions about things. It'd be endless. So then he just kind of recommends people don't do this, and he hasn't, I don't think he's done it at all since this point. Even though as a 2002 special edition was kind of contentious overall in his presentation of different things, people could definitely say like, well, now that version's kind of suppressed now. If you're interested in that version, you go and get it on the DVD thing. So it's not been preserved along with the other thing. So if you don't like it, still something to say about a version of the film being kind of pushed down to kind of be slowly thrown outdated on different formats as things progress forward. It's not on digital, it's not on Blu-ray, it's not on 4K, anything like that. People could say that thing in that regard, but also like a bunch of special features on various things. Like a lot of stuff that was on the Laserdisc has not been poured over to future releases. There's like a long, I think it was like a 90-minute documentary on the Laserdisc that was not poured over to the later releases. And there's a deleted scene that people were kind of thinking, hoping maybe would be integrated into this version that didn't get integrated at all. Because there's a deleted scene on the Laserdisc where Harrison Ford portrays the principal. Now, the entire thing, it's a really well executed type of sequence because Spielberg was kind of like, aside from Dee Wallace's character of the mother in the entire film, really wanted to just have the entire mentality of, we're not really focusing on adults. We're not even revealing adults very much. Like, it's so focused on the kids. Adults are kind of like skewed to the side and we're kind of cloaking them in different shots. We're not really focusing on different people, but a little scene after the entire thing of E.T. getting drunk and have this psychic connection with Elliot, and he's acting all drunk as well and creates all the chaos with the frogs in the dissection lab, all that type of stuff. He gets taken to the principal's office, and Harrison Ford is portraying the principal, but he's completely in shadow. And Harrison was completely fine with this. Like, it kind of freed him up to play a little bit more of a quirky presentation of the character in a certain way. I like the scene. But there's certain things that were supposed to be intercut with it, with E.T. taking all those little things with the speak and spell and various other things, and doing the entire thing of levitating it up the stairs of the entire home there. And I don't know if that really got shot or any type of way, so decided to cut that from that version. Got it included on the Laserdisc, but it's not included as the deleted scene on any future versions, apparently. So it's an interesting thing that it could have been a nice little sequence to add in there. I mean, it's Harrison Ford. Why wouldn't you want to see Harrison Ford in something? But anything like that is just, doesn't really add that much to the story overall. A little bit here and there, but not that much. So you can see why it could still remain cut in that regard. So, interesting thing. So, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, like, what a wonderful film. Just the John Williams score is just absolutely 100% iconic. Won a bunch of Oscars for the entire film with his score, the visual effects, various other things in the entire film. Oh my God. It is a piece of cinematic treasure overall, just revisiting it and rediscovering how wonderful this film is. Wonderful type of stuff, and I don't expect myself to go back to the special edition. It's really not a thing that makes it feel like it's an essential thing to watch. So I really like to hear what your thoughts are. If you watched this thing back in the day, or you still have it, or what's not, if you revisit it on any rare occasion, I'd like to hear your thoughts about the different changes, the mentality behind it. Of course, as Spielberg has kind of recanted some of those ideas, but also kind of suppressed that version overall. I'd like to hear what your thoughts about that. Should it be preserved? And just maybe just an off special feature to kind of bundle it in somewhere, a digital copy or something like that, just to keep it preserved overall, or really not fussed about it at all whatsoever. So guys, thanks so much for joining me. Hit the like button, the hype on the entire video. Comment down below, subscribe if you haven't. Super thanks feature to contribute anything monetarily to the channel, as well as Patreon every month. But guys, thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.